Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Nevada Commission for the Reconstruction of the V&T Railway. Today is Thursday, July 26th. We are just about 1:03 p.m. I think Jack's probably on his way, but we have a quorum, so we'll get started. Will you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Go to agenda item number A. Tiffany, if you do roll call for us.
Stan Jones.
Present.
Joel Dunn is absent. Denny Dotson.
Here.
Nick Morano.
Here.
Jack McGuffey is absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Go to agenda item number B, letter B, for possible action, approval of the agenda. I think the only thing we have on the agenda, Elaine, was we're going to move up letter number E to just after we approve the agenda. We'll get started on that so that we have some folks that need to get going. So, any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Anything from the public? I'll take a motion.
So I will move to approve the agenda with the modification as discussed by the chair.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, well, that will go on to letter number E for discussion only. Updated 2018-19 fiscal year marketing plan PowerPoint presentation by Argentum Partners plus marketing report.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Mr. Morano and Mr. Jones. Thank you for having us today. We figured we'd come in and give a quick recap of where things have been over the last 90 days. We're about 90 days into this effort and a pretty significant change for the organization as far as it relates to marketing and communications, and then give a look ahead, discuss a couple of the budget items and the plan for the rest of the year. With that, we have a PowerPoint up on the wall over here on both sides. I'm not going to take too much time nor dwell on too many things, so please stop me if there's questions or items of discussion. As I mentioned, the first thing we want to do is just kind of recap this collective effort. What Elaine and Candy and several board members, we look at this firmly as a team effort, and both successes and challenges are things that we look at as tackling and accomplishing as a team. So hopefully everybody can take some pride in some of the things that are up here, and some other areas are areas we're working to address. With that, you know, we really started this year out when we came aboard right in mid-April, May 1, with an emphasis on earned media. And to be clear, because I think there is a lot of people aren't familiar with the term earned media. We use earned media as news coverage. It's media we're not paying for. We'll get into paid media and some of the paid media tactics, and really that's where the budget comes in. But paid media is advertising, it's forms of media that we can control. So the first month or 2 months was really a focus on earned media efforts while we started to put together a budget and figure out what resources were available. And you can see we got pretty significant coverage on all the local stations, all the local television stations for Mother's Day and the kickoff of the year, as well as coverage in both the Nevada Appeal and the Reno Gazette-Journal. Starting with Mother's Day and then moving, like I said, through the end of the year. We can keep going, Molly, if anybody wants to stop. Obviously, we held our VIP event in early June to kick off the season. We had pretty good turnout from some VIPs, and most notably, we had the new director, or the relatively new director of the Nevada Commission on Tourism, David Peterson, as well as the RSCVA board chair, Bob Lucy, who both said that they were very impressed. They didn't realize this was here. I know RSCVA is already starting to work this into their FAM program, and NCOT has indicated as well that they're going to begin to work this into their FAM program as well. RSCVA, though, has in fact reached out to us about it and has talked to us about looking at how what kinds of logistics we would need. They've asked if we could alter train times and all of that kind of stuff. So we'll start going down and we'll see some return from those organizations that will partner on us going forward to get the word out about the train. We've also got street teams postering our events. You'll see up there, they're postering all over Reno, Carson City, and South Lake Tahoe. There you can see the posters. Those are just some of the pictures of the West Wine train. You probably can even recognize at least the location on the right. Looks like it's from Fox Pub, but we've got them postering. We've got about 300 posters up right now in the last week or week and a half, with another round to go out next week. We've also, one of the challenges early on was working through our eBlast program and our mailing list program. That was something that was done with a previous vendor, and we've since been able to transfer all of that over from that vendor about early June, transfer all of that over. We've culled through the email distribution list, and we've been able to deduplicate the emails that were included in that list and make sure that we had unique emails, unique and active emails, and begin a regular eBlast program. There's an example of some of the eBlasts you're going to see. We've also begun to change the template. That's the template that was used. We didn't want the technical part to slow down the actual communication part, so we just continued with the template that was being used. One thing, Molly, hold real quick. You'll notice how active, and all of you, I'm sure, are already aware of this, but you can see it in data. Just for instance, we'll look at the left there, the July 17th one. We talk about unique opens. We're talking about an email list of about 10,000 people, roughly. So when you see unique opens at 2980 and an open rate of 30%, that's way above industry standard. So industry, the average for an open rate for an eBlast is about anywhere from 17% to 20%. That indicates really how active and engaged the people that we're getting through various channels are when they say that they'd like more information or when we're capturing their email address. So the fact that there's a 30% open rate, and then the next number down is a click to open rate, which means they're actually, not only are they opening the email, but they're clicking on a link that's included in the email. So they're clicking through to the website, or they're clicking to buy a ticket, whatever the link might be. 24% is right about average for a click to open rate. But when you talk about an open rate that's as high as ours is compared to the average, that's pretty good click to open rate. So we're going to continue to build on that. But that's just an example of how engaged our audiences are when we're capturing them or capturing their data in the form of email addresses. And can keep going. That's the most recent that we've sent out. Actually, go back to that. You'll see what we're going to start doing. This one has been tailored. We're going to get away from the standard email blast, the template that's been used in the past, and we're creating unique templates for each e-blast that goes out. You'll see the West Wine one. This is the one that went out this week, and while it doesn't look substantially different on slide, I think it really pops on digitally when you see that on the computer. And certainly the West Wine one you'll see definitely looks a lot different. We've also started to implement digital tracking, and this has been a bit of a challenge. It's an ongoing effort that we're going to do. Really, as we've talked about, we understand that you have to answer for the budget that you spend. We want to know how we can best maximize return on investment and be able to set some accountability both for us as a marketing partner for the organization, and also figure out what efforts are best used. So this is one way of doing that. We've started to implement tracking pixels, things like when we spend money on AdWords, which we'll get into, what's the conversion? Are they actually turning into visits to the website? Are they actually turning into tickets sold? The same thing through there. Essentially, it's Facebook conversion and events. Are we actually getting people engaged on Facebook, especially when we do sponsored ads on Facebook? Are they actually resulting in tickets sold, or at least eyes on the website? There's been some challenges. Activity tickets, we've been a little slow. We've a challenge to get them to place the necessary tags on the checkout and purchase confirmation pages to track the conversion and revenue that we're getting from that, but we are working through that. I think that's really just a nature of they haven't had anybody ask for that in the past, and so we're working through to get that done so that we can really measure who's actually buying tickets when they're clicking through or visiting the website. This is just sort of a recap of some of the, we started a digital AdWord, a geo-targeted AdWord and website program, which means we're actually targeting different viewers and able to track who's coming from where and who's visiting where. You'll see this is the website performance since we launched. This is as of July 20th, so a week ago. Since we launched in early May, the first week of May, we've had 2,561 sessions or visits to the website. The average duration on the website is 2 minutes plus, which is very high. The bounce rate, which means for one reason or another they're getting kicked back or kicked through. The bounce rate is them changing between pages, so they're actually clicking to different pages, is 21%. So a fifth of the viewers or visitors to the website are actually visiting multiple pages. And then we've been able to track, and again, this is not an accurate number because we haven't been able to get the tags on activity tickets yet, but what we have been able to track through kind of a more rough means is about 161 of those page visits resulted in ticket sales. And then you see on the right our AdWords performance. Using the limited budget, I think we've spent $3,000 or $4,000 on AdWords to this point in the first 3 months. Using that budget, is roughly about $3,000. We've had 4,600 impressions. 240 of those impressions resulted in clicks to the website. The click-through rate is 5%, which is significantly above the industry average, and that results in a cost per click. Is how you measure AdWords. Is how many dollars am I spending to get each click? Is about $1.55, which is right about average. Average is about $1.47 to $1.60, somewhere in there. Our paid social media, this is some of what we were just talking about, but those were AdWords. AdWords are when you search on Google or things like that, that's what comes up. In this case, this is on what you would see on Facebook. These are sponsored ads on Facebook. We get significant engagement on our sponsored ads on Facebook. You can see the ads that we've been running on Facebook. I'm sure you've seen them if you visit Facebook at all. We've had 103,000 impressions over 90 days through those ads on Facebook. We've had almost 1,400 clicks with a click-through rate of 1.36%, which is a little below industry average, and we're trying to figure out why that is. We're tinkering with the ads themselves to see if that's what it is, but it's not that much below industry average. So, those ads are also extremely, that's a results in as you'll see, a cost per click of about 60 cents a click. So it's very, very economical, especially if we can get that number up there. Our social media, our actual stats about Facebook likes, different engagement, people who are commenting, people who are asking questions. Here's our stats, and you can see our baseline was May 1st, 2018. Our benchmark, it was at 15,494 people liked our Facebook page. Actually, it's between Facebook and Instagram. Liked our social media pages. We had 16 users engaged daily. When we first started this, 126 users engaged weekly and 417 users reached organically. As of a couple of days ago, we're up about 400 likes. But our engagement has gone way, way up. So we went from 16 users engaged daily to 109 users engaged daily. We went from 126 weekly to over almost 2,500 weekly, and from 417 that were reached organically. That means that there was no sponsored ad or anything like that. They just found our page, went from 417 to 1,890. There's an example of just some of the Facebook posts that have performed the highest and had the most engagement, the most people that have commented, asked questions. We do get a lot of questions, and we've established a pretty quick response rate to those questions too, which is something I think everybody can take a lot of pride in because it's a result of a lot of communication on the back end. And then there's our individual Instagram stats. We have over 1,000 followers now. Instagram wasn't something that was significantly used going into this season. We have over 1,000 followers now. you can see some of the data and breakout of our followers, but that's one form that we're going to continue to build on. There's some examples of top Instagram posts. So with that, that's a look back, and we can stop right there for a second if there's questions, or I can just keep going, but it's a natural transition. So that's the first 90 days. And again, the first 90 days it was only, we put together sort of a temporary budget, and I think I was trying to pull the exact number today, but it's somewhere around $3,000 is what's been spent on paid media in the first 90 days. Obviously, we plan to significantly change that through the rest of the year, and we'll show you what we're looking at there.
Hey, Mike, when we're starting from scratch with a lot of things, and I realize trying to develop your social identity, your social voice, probably we're all kind of in the dark here a little bit. What's your guys' thought on how you approach that versus with the amount of posts that we're doing per week, whether it's Facebook or Instagram? So many just generic ones? Are we focused on special events? Kind of a little bit of both? Is there a pattern that we're kind of trying to
gradually that pattern.
Yeah.
Great question, Mr. Chairman. Gradually, that pattern is becoming more strategic. When it started, it was, we better get something going. And so really it was a more generic, or it was just happened to be, man, ticket sales, we need to really pump this one. Let's get a Mother's Day post up. So there wasn't a plan in place. We've developed, as you'll see now, a content calendar, for lack of a better word, that's going to direct a lot of that. We've also become, you guys had, the organization had thousands of pictures, so we didn't know what assets were already available to us. We've been able to go through and catalog a lot of that, so we're able to now tailor that to individual events or to individual messages based on what's going on. So yes, to answer your question, Mr. Chair, it's been an evolving process, but I think we've got a good grasp now on what works, what gets engagement, and what doesn't, and now to develop unique content, or as we'll talk about, even a campaign that actually captures that engagement and builds on it. So here's some of the things that we're planning going forward. One thing, we've had great testimonials already this year, and we're going to actively engage in collecting more testimonials from writers, from reviews. We've got a Yelp train plan that we're talking about, that we'll talk about in a minute, and gather those kinds of testimonials and really start a quarterly testimonial type program. You can see this as an example. It's hard to read, you can see it on the right, but this is how we would use that. We begin to unroll that both in sponsored posts on Facebook or on social media, as well as our organic, some of our organic posts and uses on the website. That's just one example, but you can see kind of the template and even the look and feel that we're starting to go for. And again, if you see it in person, we'll send the PowerPoint presentation around afterwards also, so you can actually see the colors and things like that. While it doesn't appear on screen to be dramatically different, it certainly is much more vibrant, and I think is kind of a good evolution of the look of what's been used in the past. There's as I said, we're going to create a unique template for each e-blast. We're going to do a weekly e-blast that'll maybe eventually turn into almost like a newsletter, and really make it to where every Monday you're going to get your VNT, what's going on with the VNT e-blast. That'll be a customized e-blast. This is the West Wine one that's going to go out. It's definitely very sleek, this one, and each one will be tailored depending on what the event or what the message is. We're going to continue to engage, or one of the things we're proposing in the budget is continue to engage our street team. It's essentially a promotion company that we work with on other projects, where they just go through, they poster, and they also get the event on community calendars. You can see some of the things that are continuing right now. For right now, we've got them focused on melodrama and the wine train, but we'll continue using them going forward as well. And part of this plan that we're talking about, Polar Express is one of those things, as you all know, it doesn't need a lot of explaining. It's one of those things that really just needs a nudge every now and then. That it certainly performs very well without a lot of targeted marketing, but we'd be foolish to ignore it. So part of this plan also, it obviously culminates in Polar Express, and maybe a much more use Polar Express. Let's make sure we get it sold out, get a lot of attention leading up to it using earned media, but create some media partnerships. There's a lot of demand to partner with us on it in the form of trade or other things. Create some partnerships that also leverage the exposure we get from Polar Express over 2 months into next year. So let's convert those Polar Express riders into riders starting next season. So part of this plan encapsulates that as well. Now we get to the budget. Working with the executive director, we've been able to identify roughly what we think the funds are, and this budget that we're going to propose also includes some of the grant money that we've been able to get from the Nevada Commission on Tourism. So the total budget is about $45,000, but roughly 10 of that is grant money from the Nevada Commission on Tourism through our tourism grants. So really the cost to the organization is more like $35,000 or $36,000, where the rest is grant money. What we're proposing in this budget is to really amp up our digital marketing effort, to really go after things like our search engine optimization, make sure when people are searching tourism activities for families in Nevada that we're at the top of the list, that kind of thing. Geo-targeted ads that are targeting our audience. That's a great part about digital marketing. We can target specifically by demographic, by location, or by geography, who we want to target, the people that are most likely to buy tickets. And then, of course, to increase our social media ads, which have such significant engagement. And part of that is, a small part of that $20,000 is also for the coding and analytics on the back end. We want to implement more tags so that we're really able to effectively monitor what's working and what's not. We've also worked in a direct mail piece for the last 2.5 months of the season. So we would target Carson City and Northern Nevada. We would target it by our demographic. You can buy, I think you all are familiar, but you can buy mail lists. We would buy the mail lists that match up with our target audience and put a direct mail piece out with the schedule for the last 2 months of the season. And then also using traditional media, print media, and particularly in the smaller towns and rural papers, which have a very significantly high readership and a high pass-through rate, meaning more than one set of eyes per paper. So we would use that both for their print. Most of those outlets sell their package now. As you know, you probably get a lot of your news or read a lot of your news online when you check the Nevada Appeal and still read that paper, but also see what's happening online. Most of those packages now include their digital, so it would be a combination of digital and print advertising, and particularly in those outlets, Dayton Valley Dispatch, Nevada Appeal, Tahoe Daily Tribune. We also would use some radio, sponsored radio ads, 10 or 15-second ads. We've got a lot of radio stations that we've talked to that would like to do, if we'll spend a little, they'll give us a lot kind of thing, to include on-site remotes. West Wine might be a great one for an on-site remote. Towards the end of the season, we might want to do an on-site remote to kick off Polar Express, those types of things. And then, of course, our street team, it's relatively inexpensive. It's about $250 or $300 for each project we send them on. They've done one project. We'd like to maybe send them out twice more this season. And then, of course, our e-blast program. The e-blast cost about $100 or $125 each time to send an e-blast out. We want to make this a regular occurrence. Every week we want somebody to get, every Monday, them to open their email and know they're going to have their what's happening on the VNT e-blast. And then, of course, as we have special events, we'll send out individual special e-blast, West Wine is this week, or this is happening kind of thing. So that's a total of $35,000. The rest is things like we want to do a photo shoot. So we've got a budget in there for a photo shoot. We've got a very talented local photographer who said he'd give us a break and wants to come out and shoot. And those would be assets that we would use not only for this season, but also for next season. And we'll talk about a campaign in a minute. And so we can actually tailor that photo shoot to support the campaign. The website right now needs to be be optimized. And I know we've been talking about doing a full rebuild or a rebuild of the website, and at some point that's a project that collectively we can discuss in greater detail. But since we're in season, we'd like to optimize the website so that we're better able to track who's visiting where, and furthermore that we can make sure that things like the loading on mobile phones, which we found can be a little slow, or things like that, that we can speed up some of those processes. Now we get into some of the specifics on the media plan. Our strategy, and I'll breeze through this a little bit, but some of our digital advertising we would use it's a very affordable way to get on TV is through smart and digital TV, so streaming services. That does not mean we're talking about commercials. As you know, if you've got a streaming service, that's part of the benefit is you don't get a lot of commercials. You reduce that significantly through smart TVs and digital TV. But actually, it's the banner ad that you see sometimes at the top, or the art card that you see before you start a television show. So to divert some of that $20,000 in digital funds to smart and digital TV advertising. There's an example of the direct mail, the print, and the street team that we've already talked about. And then this would be something, we are not doing this as of now. This would be our banner ads that you would see, for instance, if you went to carsonchamber.com and you got the banner ad at the top. We are not using this yet, but it's something that is very effective. So that's also part of where that $20,000 digital budget would go. And this is kind of an example of what that could look like. And the great part about those is we can target. We can go on travel magazines. We can go on travel websites. We can do that kind of stuff to target the banner ads. And then this is the pay-per-click. This is stuff that we're already doing that we would like to increase. We've seen it be effective. So you only pay when someone clicks, and it helps we can pay based on certain keywords to move our search, our what people are searching for. To move the organization to the top of the search when people are searching for family activities in Nevada. We can pay to be at the top of that list, and we only pay them when somebody clicks on it. We talked about radio, particularly in this case. We've got some interest from KODS, the oldies station in Reno, as well as from Alice, which is kind of the morning, going to work, going to school station, and recently also Nevada Public Radio has also expressed interest in working with us. We've learned that the organization's worked with them in the past, so we're looking forward to incorporating them into the mix also. One of the things that we haven't had that we're going to do moving forward is back to the chairman's question about going from more of a generic standard form of communication to something that's more targeted and engaging is let's start to put together a campaign. And while we've only got effectively 2.5 months in the season before Polar Express starts, we wanted to create a campaign that would be lasting, that would be something that we could build on next year so we're not reinventing the wheel, and we can really use it effectively this season and have some fun with it next season. So we put together 2 concepts here. Concept A is one that I think we all really like. It's got a lot of potential. It's kind of just the all aboard theme, and you'll see some of the sample headlines and sample themes that we could use on the back. You know, a lot of us like experience history while making memories. Timeless travel, or see the history, feel the nostalgia. And what this campaign would be is utilizing a lot of the personalities and characters that we already have throughout our advertising and show them sort of mixed in. You might have a picture of the line in the depot, and there's Santa Claus buying his ticket or getting his ticket punched, and there's the Cowboys getting their tickets punched, and there's some of our vintage costumed dress performers getting their tickets punched, and really just showing that you never know who you might see and what's going to happen on this experience. But even taking that a step further, where you know, some kind of viral video that when you step onto the train, you're transformed into this, whether it's Polar Express and you're transformed into this kind of fantasy imagination land, or you're transformed into the Old West or things like that. So you can see some of the examples that we've we're looking at thematically. This would be an easy one for us to use assets that you already have and play with those photos through Photoshop and through video editing to incorporate some of this. But then to use a photo shoot and take some video and get that really amped up for next season. The second one was, we call it a train of plot, but it's almost like a choose your own adventure sort of theme or campaign that offers a lot more opportunities for engagement, but it might be a little bit more difficult to translate. That's with all the different characters, again, playing on the different thematics that we use the train for. It's who will you become when you come on the train, almost to the point where next season we're giving people a personality when they get onto the train, and then they're posting on social through that personality, and you'll see that through some of the ideas that we've had. But you know, we can show those characters, we can create backstories, and have people take on those different kinds of personas. So those are the two campaigns that we've discussed. I think All Aboard's the easiest to translate and the one that we could use the quickest. This kind of second one is one that fleshed out might offer more opportunities for engagement, but personally I think our team likes the idea of, for the next year and a half, using that All Aboard campaign and really fleshing out the characters and the persona that the train already has, and telling some of those stories through that. Is that it? That's where we're at right now. We're ready to go with the paid media campaign. You know, as soon as we get the go ahead, we've got stuff that's already been mocked up and created. Some of this we've already amped up our digital, and we've already got our street teams out. So, questions?
Go back. Could you go back to the budget? I've been involved in political campaigns for the last several years, and every time we stew over direct mailers. And it's my experience, if you see, you know, I just wonder if we would be better off to spend that money somewhere else.
So we went back and forth. I mean, direct mail, Stan, there's
Yeah.
a reason they use them for political campaigns, right? As many people throw them away, if you still get 5% that engage in that direct mail piece at a cost of 60 cents a piece, that's a pretty effective use of the budget, and it maybe hits a slightly different audience than you could hit online or something like that. So that's the reason. Of course, we're in a campaign season, so this direct mail would have to, I mean, we'd have to earn our keep on this one. It's got to cut through the clutter for sure.
Yeah.
But I do think that there might be some reactions from some people that it's not vote this person or this, and we actually have something that could be more engaging. And certainly it's an affordable means of advertising that can be very effective when it's done right. But that is something we went back and forth with.
Would you guys use a code on that so you can track it?
We would.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. We go right through, and that's where the website comes in.
So
the website updates come
it'll
through.
flush out itself then.
Right.
Yeah, you'd about check it out. I did have a question. No, Standard, do you have any more?
No.
Video. I know we maybe have some stock already in. I don't know how much we have, but we use it a lot in Virginia City, and it's very easy to take snips, to use it for a commercial, use it for a Facebook post, use it for just a standard video on an event. Any thought? I didn't see much on that there on the plan for video. Again, it's expensive, maybe a project thing, but with that you can take it and use a lot of it for next year and the year after. So thoughts on video?
We couldn't agree more, and it's not on there. Part of it was because we're trying to maximize the budget for this year and figure out what's going to be effective for the remainder of this year. Video to get edited, as you know, Dan. I mean, you can do it quick.
Yeah.
But it still takes a couple of weeks to really get it
Right.
where you want. But I wholly agree. The video assets that we already have for the train are they're good, but there's some things that we could do that are better. We had intended on this being the video really being a project we address after the season, but we'd be silly not to capture what. So our photographer is also got videographer capabilities and does pretty good stuff, but it's definitely not a videographer company. So we'll use him to create 30-second snippets, but that is definitely not something that's reflected on there. We would have to redirect some of the budget.
Maybe that's something in a second cycle grant for Travel Nevada that we focus on, because to me that would raise right to the top as something that we need, not just for this year, but it's again to start next year. We got to have video.
Completely agree. I think that people got to feel it.
Yep.
we'd love to get drone footage of the train going and
Exactly.
things like that.
Yeah, exactly. And then I had another one. You mentioned a database, 10,000. I thought our number was higher than that. Was that's after we flushed it and cleaned it all out? Is that what ended up really about 10?
It's more like 9,500, but
Wow.
yes.
Okay. I think that was all that I had. So yeah, that has. Nick, any questions? No? Okay. Anything
And
else?
to that point on database, as you are very well aware, that is maybe your most effective marketing tool. So one of the things that we're trying to do, even if people aren't buying tickets, is make sure we're capturing their email addresses and build that database for the
Absolutely.
rest of the year as fast as we can and create as much exposure, because that's our targeted audience. So
Yeah. Not that we need to get into, you guys can answer this later, but as far as the e-blasts that go out to numbers of email addresses, are we paying a flat rate for so many? Does it get cheaper the more we get? I mean, I don't know how much we're paying per email blast.
It's roughly, like I said, between $95 per blast to $110 per e-blast. It does go up, but we're not near the number where it's going to bump up. So one of the other things that we've been talking about is I think that we're going to get some additional email lists. That some of our partners have volunteered their email lists, and however that works, whether we end up sending the blast to them and they send it out to their list, or they're going to give us a list. If we get some of those in, it might go up, but it's still not going to go up substantially. It might go up $25 a blast or something like that when we hit. I think the number is 12.5, but is our next bump up.
Okay, yeah. That's all I have. Any questions from the public? Stephen, our one public member? Okay, with that then, yeah, thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So with that, we'll go to agenda item C, public comment on non-agendized items. Okay. We'll go on to agenda item number, or letter D, possible action approval of the meeting minutes for June 28th, 2018.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the meeting of 28 June 2018.
Second?
I have a motion, I have a second. Any public comment on this? Hearing none, I'll call.
Denny,
Yes.
let me find out from Elaine. Did the corrections get made? Okay.
Right here.
I went through them and they came out and there were some minor typos that, like
Okay.
the capital M for Morano was made, so as long as that's what you have, then
That's what's
I've got no
in
comment.
Okay.
To correct it all.
Yeah.
Okay. I have a motion and I have a second, and then all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Go on to agenda item, already done E. We'll go F for discussion of possible action. July 28, 2018 financial report, including revenue received and vouchers paid. Elaine.
Okay, so I stopped by the bank just before coming to the meeting, and you will see a printout of your statement, of the statement.
Mike.
Sorry about that. I stopped by the bank before the meeting to get our current total as far as what's in our account. Those are all of our credit card receipts as of the beginning of the season. And there could be some, I spoke with Denny about it today, there's about 50,000 that's in our account that it is something that rolled over from last year. But we're at 350 some odd thousand in B of A. Hugh and I have spoke about having it moved to the county, but he would like to first talk with Vanessa Stevens to see how she wants to move forward. So they're working on that, but until that point where they make that decision, the money is fine, it's sitting in there. We're not really writing checks off of it, we're doing nothing with it other than using it as a holding account as all of our tickets accumulate. And so you will see that that is in your packet, or not in your package, but you actually have a copy of what I picked up today. Vouchers, this is as of our last board meeting to the 20th of July. And you'll see, I'm still not working with a debit card. I'm still running through the expenses on my own credit card. And the reason for that is Hugh and I spoke about it after the meeting, our last meeting, and considering coming to the board and asking to move the accounts to Wells Fargo, because that's where Story County is banking from, and it would be a lot easier if we were just to shift banks, and therefore getting a debit card at this point, when that could happen at any point,
Makes sense.
just didn't make sense to go to that hassle. So overall, expenditures since our last board meeting, $87,940. Now, Hugh did ask me to let you know that we're just not at the point right now to come to you with a full-on balance sheet or quarterly reports. We're still merging accounts. We just got the audit, a 6-month audit. He's got some adjustments that he would like to see done before he merges the 2 years or the year together. And so there's still some work that needs to be done, and there just wasn't enough time between our board meeting, our 2 board meetings, to make that happen. But we are working closely together on that. And we meet on Mondays. So almost there.
As I've stated before, Elaine, this is a process, and it's going to be until we're able to really compare apples to apples, will take a little time. I've been there with the VCTC combining stuff and going to a public accounting system from a private one, and it takes a little bit of doing to get there. But I know there's some money probably in the Story County Fund too.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so all that'll come together once we get that balance sheet, but it'll
That's
take
right.
time before it starts making sense.
That's right. And
Yep.
as soon as Hugh is comfortable with the audit and then the adjustments that need to be made, he'll merge the 2 accounts, and then we'll have just one, not a general and an enterprise account, but just one account with Story County. And also, there's been, let's see here, almost $10,000 that has been deposited that was either cash or checks that I take to the county and actually give them the deposits for the Story County account. We did over $1,200 on our little yard sale to clean out the past and outdated merchandise that came from our previous gift shop. So, and the rest will be going to donations, either Toys for Tots or the
Advocates for Domestic Violence, Classy Seconds.
Classy Seconds, yeah. The group against domestic violence, we're going to bring them everything else.
Okay, so we have an action item. I guess we need to approve what you've submitted here. So I will, with that, any questions from the board? No? Then I'll entertain a motion then.
Oh, go ahead, if you want to.
On letter F.
I'll be happy to make it if you want. So I move to approve the July 2018 financial report, including the revenue received and the vouchers paid as contained in the agenda package.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. One other question I just thought of just now was, do we need to include the amount, dollar total for vouchers approved each month? I know we used to do that. Or do we just leave it as submitted?
It's probably better to have the totals out just because it's more disclosure to the public, but I don't know that it would be required.
Right. Yeah. So maybe for the future, we just put the total on there. That's easy, yeah. Okay, I have a motion and any public comment on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll go on to letter G. For consideration of possible action, review and approval of a 6-month audit, June 30th through December 31st, 2017, performed by Steele and Associates.
Okay, Hugh and I met on Friday Monday afternoon to go over the audit, that was the 6-month audit that was performed by Steele CPAs, and there was nothing that really stood out but the obvious, and that's that we were a board in transition. There were some things that were, checks that were input weren't actually cut and sent to to pay certain invoices, so you'll see, she saw where we had to delete those but eventually we did pay those invoices after doing research. She also saw that pulling together the accounts, whether it was from the city to the CVA and then the VCTC was also, we were all cutting checks trying to make sure that the bills got paid. It was easy enough to follow because it was a time of not as much activity. But no, in fact, it was the most activity. Sorry about that. But we were able to track each expense, each check that was cut, all the deposits, and there weren't many items that we had to really research and investigate, but it was a chore to get the audit completed. There will be some adjustments. Hugh saw a few things, and maybe we need to re-itemize a few things and put them in the proper category. But when we come back to you, after you approve this, with everything combined, we'll be able to present to you again a full financial statement.
Any questions from the board? Nope. Any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none, then I'll ask for a,
Kenny?
yes.
I have maybe not so much of a question, but just an observation that the Note 1, the summary of significant accounting practices, or policies rather, I think the next time around, that note should be modified to reflect the current composition of the board. This is the old board here, and I assume Vanessa used it because it's for December, up through December 2017, which had the old board.
So Mike, to be clear, that's to update the board or show that there were two boards during this juncture?
My point is that this is an accurate note for the first 6 months of the fiscal year because that was the constitution of the board up to December 31st. Henceforward, I think that we should probably reflect the change in the composition of the board to the 5 members under SB 57 rather than carry over what the old board was because that isn't accurate. That's the point.
Okay, thank you. I get that.
Thanks, Mike. Okay, back to a motion.
I make a motion to approve the 6-month audit, 30 June to December 31, 2017, performed by Steele and Associates, to include the proposal by Mike Rowe, our attorney, to include that suggestion.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any public comment on this item? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Go on to letter H on the agenda for discussion only, General Manager Report. Back to you, Elaine.
Well, as you could see by the marketing plan, we've been trying to put together some theme trains, some additional activities in order to compensate for a slow start this year, and also to, as far as our revenues, the passenger count, the steam count, we've been getting close to filling our trains, but we just haven't made it 100%. But we have solutions for that via either whether it be signage, correct signage, pumping up the marketing so that it's even stronger, marketing to the locals more. We're trying to find solutions because we need to maximize our inventory, what we have now. Our challenges have been, of course, the diesel train isn't as attractive, so we've been trying to put together programs for that. And then we have some of these themed events. We're very busy with those. It would be great to have a time where we could limit our themed events and focus just on the train and it being a steam. We have passengers that are sometimes disappointed that we're running diesel instead of steam. We get groups that we can't accommodate because we have a capacity limit at certain points. Then at others, we're looking at trying to market to different groups, being that one event is for one type of a market, one event is for another type of a market. We're trying to beef up our wine trains. So the revenue that we're not able to produce with just our steam trains, we're trying to supplement that with our wine trains and our events. That is a lot of work, but we're doing it. We're pulling it off. Eventually, though, as I said before, when we can get the 18 back on track, we're pulling more cars. We've got our signage. We've got everything that we need to be what we're supposed to be, which is a entertainment amenity to the area. It's going to happen. So a lot of our time, especially during the weekdays, is marketing and trying to fill the trains. On the weekends, we're working with passengers. So it's been a great season. It's getting better, and Candy's going to be giving us a report. Overall, working with individual board members on specific topics and projects. It has been it's been a 3 months of discovery, you might say, and I know that the board members will all speak on those of you that have been able to dive into your specific areas where I've asked you your assistance. Will be able to speak on those areas, and so will our contractors. I was hoping Tom would be here today, but he wasn't able to make it, obviously. But again, we're working towards filling the trains and marketing, and getting to the point where I believe that all of you, when I was first hired, your goal was to make this event an experience, and I think we're getting close. So if not, we're as close as we're going to get, and it's all exciting. It's happening. That's it.
Elaine, I haven't on my schedule in front of me, but how many of the special trains have we had so far this year?
Right now, we've only had one, and that was the wine train. This weekend, this Saturday, we have a melodrama, and then next week we have the West Wine, another wine train. So now it's when we start scheduling all the special event trains, they'll start one after the other.
Has the schedule stayed the same since we first started with the budget, as far as where we plugged in the special event, or do we move some of those or change some of the names? I know we changed some names to some of them.
Yeah, we have not. The schedules remain the same. If anything, we've added to them. For example, our wine trains are now with our Toast to the Canyon wine trains now include the host, John Tyson. So we're using him to help market. But the others, if we had a melodrama, that might be where we've plugged in a different event. So we've used the same schedule.
Okay.
We've just modified the event.
Yeah.
And that's been well over a month ago.
So we really haven't had a chance to really evaluate some of the special trains that we really haven't got into it really yet.
That's right. We
Yeah,
have not.
Got it. Okay. Any questions from the board? No?
Well, until we get the 18, we're not going to make money, and that's a fact. We need the 3 cars to make money. And so if we're getting close to breaking even, I think that's all we can ask of Elaine right now. I really do. And there's no time frame on the 18 coming back, or is there?
It won't be this season. But I've spoke with Tom Dinian, and I've spoke with Tom, and now Nick. I've asked Nick to also be a lead on the 18 so that we can have a consistent report regarding the 18. But it is critical to this organization. And that's where, if anywhere that the challenge, financial challenge to this commission and for this operation that we're in charge of, the money is in the 3rd passenger car. we break even at 7,000 for each train, each steam train, and if you sold every seat, we would be hitting $7,000. So that's when we break even. We try to get there every weekend, and when we see those trains hit 115 or above, it's still, we're pushing for that 140.
Elaine, I was just thinking, when we started this thing, one, we wanted to be accountable. But we also knew that, try and break even by the end of the year and not be a couple, 200 or 300 in the hole. If we just break even in the summertime, we're going to be just fine. With that, what was I going to say? I just took a left turn there when I should have stayed on the track. It'll come back to me. I had a thought there about what we wanted to do with the special. Okay, never mind. Sorry.
But, and that's the point. I should make this very clear, is that 140 passengers, we break even. We're not breaking even right now because we're not hitting 140 each weekend. And plus we added an additional Friday. Now, we still have to break that 140 because it's per train cost. And by adding the additional Friday, Candy and I have spoke about this, are we cannibalizing our Saturdays and Sundays? But we see these Friday trains being very successful. So it's kind of wait and see every weekend how many walk-ins we get. When the marketing kicks up, though, that's when you're going to see the need for 210, which would be our third car is an additional 30, or I'm sorry, additional 70. And that's where the commission will make its money. And that's where we'll go over break even. But when you're looking at 140 and you can't sell any more, that's a cap. Now, I will say, Tom has been good about when we've gone over 140, he's been good about giving us that third car. And there's no additional charge when we have the third car. So he's been really good about that, but we might turn around and have more than 140 on a Saturday, but less on a Sunday. And we're pulling this extra car. But overall, with the active marketing, the new promotions, we'll be getting more popular, and next season will be our season. But this year is still looking good, especially with Polar Express, which Candy will report on.
Good. I just took a right turn, so I'm back on the track. I don't remember what I was. You helped me out there. With that, trying to see where we're at to evaluate the year to a return on investment, just to kind of going into the Polar as we finish. Is there a way? I don't want you to do a lot of extra work. The reporting's probably there, just to configure it in a way where we can kind of track a year-to-date total, just on the expense of the train versus the passengers. Not the rest of the stuff on the backside. I get that, but just kind of a break even as we got a running total for the summer, that we just kind of get a ballpark, unaudited idea of where we're finishing up for the summer.
Yes, in fact, there is a way. We can do an Excel spreadsheet, put in just those operation costs and then the revenue, and then I could bring you guys a total and a pie chart each month to show you.
Yeah.
And we can even break that down per train to show. There are added expenses now that I also see that we need to add to the per train costs. And the way I'm doing that is if I figure out if we didn't have a train, would we have this expense? And if the answer's no, then therefore it's applied to the train.
I don't want you to do a lot of extra work. I just thought it would be kind of cool to see kind of where we are, kind of tracking your reports each week. And when I came back and from vacation, looking at how you're reporting on the Polar Express, I loved it. It was like, yeah, that's cool. I love seeing that kind of stuff. But then I'd forget about it a week later. But to have that maybe each month is kind of a running total, just kind of, it's like, would be kind of neat to see. But no bells and whistles, just
Standard.
Yeah,
a graph to show you.
that'd be great.
Fine, we can do that. That'd be good.
Anything else from board? Anything from the public? Okay, we'll move on to agenda item I, ticket sales. Miss Candy.
Yes. Well, I just want to let you know, and I'm sure you do know, that what Elaine is reporting to you about our season is nothing new. It's just what we had to deal with last year. Because, again, last year we didn't have the 18, and we had to be limited to 140. And I have to say that we have, just like Elaine told you, we've had some weekends where we've sold out that almost gotten close to selling out both a Saturday and Sunday, but as soon as we added in a Friday, that diluted it a little bit. But I think we'll break even, hopefully. Anyway, so far this season, on your steam trains, regular season, we've sold 2,827 tickets. And the revenue from that has been $137,859. That's just on your steam trains. On your diesel trains, we've sold 336 tickets with a revenue of $13,160. So you can see how the diesel weekends are not as popular. And as Elaine said, we've tried various ideas to kind of boost those up a little, but it's just not happening. So anyway, here's the good news. For Polar Express, so far as of 8 o'clock this morning, we've sold 1,740 tickets, $112,462 in revenue, and that includes all fees. The very first day they went on sale, we sold 750 tickets. So far, we've sold 887 VIP tickets, and there's only 553 of those left to sell. And we've sold 860 coach tickets, and there are 8,380 of those left to sell, and that's very typical of Polar Express. Those VIP tickets, I guarantee you, will be gone by the end of August. And it will take longer to sell the coach tickets, but it will happen, and eventually it will be sold out. Elaine reported that we just completed one special event train. Actually, we did a Toast of the Canyon train in June. We sold 39 tickets for that one. And then we did one July 21st, and we sold 64 for that one. So that needle is moving up. And we've got the Civil War reenactment people helping us serve, and that really adds to the atmosphere. And we've got John Tyson now, and it's really, that's a fun train to do. If you haven't done a wine train, you should. And then we have our first melodrama Saturday night, and I would encourage you to come on down and check that out too. I think you will really enjoy it. It's going to be a fun time. And we'd like to have you there. We're serving chicken and tri-tip and all kinds of salads, and we have a ton of food. So just bring your appetite. Come down and enjoy the melodrama. We'd love to see all of you there. And the phone continues to be pretty busy. Lots of questions from my customers about where the depot is, and a lot of calls, where's the train during the middle of the week? So explaining to them that they can go to Virginia City and ride that train. So most of my calls are not ticket sales, they're answering questions. People seem to be able to figure out how to buy a ticket, but they still have a lot of questions, which I think will be something we need to discuss when we redesign the website to make sure we're getting some questions answered on the website. But everything seems to be going pretty well. Any questions?
Not for me, no. Sound yep,
Okay.
good.
Candy, when you guys redo the website, you might want to update the overall map, because it still shows Draco Way as the ultimate terminal, I think.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and I can help you with that.
Okay.
Okay, move on to agenda letter J. That will be discussion only. Our attorney report. Mr. Rowe.
Not really anything to report for the past month. It's been really quiet, which is pretty typical in my experience with this operation. When Elaine and Candy and the train are really busy, there doesn't seem to be a lot that requires my attention. So I haven't done much this past month. It was only recently that I reviewed the agenda packet and made some comments to Elaine about the minutes, and you heard my comment about the audit report. Did have one question for the commission, though, and this relates to something Stan brought up last month. We had, after the last meeting, I sent to Elaine a copy of the amortization schedule on Draco, so she could pinpoint where we were with regard to the principal amount and interest left to pay. And I noticed on this agenda, we did not have an action item to establish a maintenance fund for Draco. And is that something that we need to be sure that you guys get on your agenda for next month?
Yeah, we probably have. Elaine and I met with you to discuss this, and I guess we didn't follow up, but we did discuss, and discussed what we talked about at the commission board meeting about utilizing that for special projects go ahead. Jim.
What Hugh explained to us is there is an line item, and we can direct money towards that line item specifically, but that it wasn't really necessary.
Right. At the time.
At that time, based on how the budget is laid out, there is a line item there for what is it?
For depot maintenance.
For depot maintenance.
There is.
For maintenance, but this is actually a capital outlay were some of the items that we were looking at, and he said there was 50,000 for capital outlay.
Yeah, I believe we have both in there, both capital outlay line item and a maintenance fund.
We just have to make sure we put it in the right category.
Yeah.
Right. And,
Okay, thanks. I just didn't want it to slip through the cracks because we did have a pretty involved discussion last meeting, and as long as that issue was addressed, it was something that I was following up on.
So should we make it an agenda item to make it official next time?
Well,
or not?
Yeah, I don't think that.
I don't think if it's already in your budget and you're taking those monies and dedicating them for a specific purpose, then I think you're already finished with your public hearings on it because the budget went through the public hearing process.
Yep, we're good. Okay, we'll move on to letter K, the engineering report.
Hi, guys. Yeah, I've been out of town, but also not charging to come for meetings since about February, but I tried to put together a bunch of items, and I was just going to babble, but I decided I needed to sit down for a minute and actually put together a little bullet list. So starting through that, I think first item on the list is what we're going to do with this sewer holding tank at Eastgate pursuant to discussions with Elaine and Stan as far as the original tank that was put in at Eastgate to handle the sanitary sewer flows was designed specifically for the office building only, not any restrooms. Restrooms were subsequently added. I suspect there's probably some sludge that's built up in that 2,500 gallon tank, but the bottom line 2,500 gallons tank is not sufficient for the restrooms that were installed at a later date. And so the request was, what do we need to do to replace that? So I've been trying to work with Stan and with Elaine on that item. What we need to do with that, and my understanding is not an action item here, but the idea is to at least proceed forward with the initial work, is that we really need to get an NDEP permit to install that because we're currently covered by an NDEP permit for the existing holding tank. I suspect the reporting requirements in that NDEP report might be a little bit belated, if you will, but that's besides the point. To get a new NDEP report, basically, we have to do some calculations to come up with some flow estimates, as well as do a little site plan. I suspect that Carson City will not require a permit because it's on federal property, and it's not some of the property that was transferred to Carson City under the lands bill. BLM, we need to at least touch base with them on what are they going to require, if anything, because that is BLM property. So I've been working with Stan on that. I estimate the permit calcs and running the permit to NDEP and putting a little site plan together is probably $5,000 to $6,000. Assuming you want me to do that, and I think that's the case. Would be using Gary Luce, who's now with RCI. He prepared the original NDEP permit applications on the original facility and knows how to deal with those folks. It may not be Gary, but it might be someone else, resource specialist over there. The estimates for the tank, and again, Elaine sent me the quotes from the one company. They were looking at replacing the existing tank and putting in a 10,000 or a 15,000 gallon tank or combination of tanks. I think we can probably save the existing tank. I'm gonna try to go out tomorrow and if we can get ideally, we would dig down and find out exactly where the tank is. However, my discussion stand with Ron Kipp, if AMAC wanted to do it, is they probably not gonna be available to do it for another couple weeks. So I don't think we wanna wait that long to go do the exploration work. So I'm gonna see when I'm in the field tomorrow, which is my last item on the list with this inspection, to see if I can determine if we have enough room and what we need to put in there. One thing, and this is gonna be a question for Mike, based on those proposals, it's gonna be in excess of $50,000, which I believe requires the board to go out and get at least 3 proposals, informal. So we'll have to be doing that. If it exceeds $100,000, we would have to formally bid the project. So that's where I'm at on the septic tank issue. And Elaine, Stan,
Well,
or Denny.
So let me understand. So we're looking to replace, we have an issue. So our option is, only option there, can't put in a leach line.
That's correct.
Is that due to zoning?
There's 2 reasons, Danny. One thing, Carson City does have a moratorium on septic systems within the northeast quadrant of Carson City. For example, when Pick and Pull was put in there way back, they would not allow a septic system. So we could go, in theory, and revisit that policy with Carson City. The other problem we have is a physical locality problem. Again, we have a limited area that we could put a leach field in. Ideally, it would be down at the bottom of that fill. However, that's outside of the boundary of the right-of-way grant that the BLM issued us. So to be able to put a facility on non-granted property, that's probably a 2-year process to even get that additional land to do that. Alternatively, we talked about, should we go up and build a leach field and abandon some parking spaces below the, again, assuming Carson City buys off, and abandon the parking spaces and put a leach field in the elevated fill. And the thinking there was that probably was not the best way to go. So the concept still seems to be put in a larger capacity holding tank. I mean, ultimately, if we ever build a new depot and the developers and the adjacent area rent some sanitary sewer up there, we can tie into that, but that's probably after we're all gone. So I don't think so. Could it be done? Maybe, but is it practical? I don't think so.
So just starting at ballpark type stuff, you're at $5,000 or $6,000 just to get an assessment or a permit, and then you're looking at about a $50,000 to put in a bigger tank?
I'm just looking at the proposal that Elaine got from Justin Plumbing, and they'd estimated about $50,000 for a 10,000-gallon tank, I think it was, as well as removal of the other one. But I don't know why we would remove the other one. Hopefully we can hook them up in parallel, and I've done that before. So we'd retain that 2,500-gallon capacity as well as 10 or 15,000. But we also need to do some calcs to find out if that's going to be acceptable sizing rationalization, if you will, for the NDEP permit, which NDEP is going to review. So yes, that's roughly, I think, what it would cost.
so, Ken, you're going to handle the permitting?
Well, unless I get a bunch of negative feedback here, I know it's not an action item, but I don't have to do it. If you guys want to go out for someone else to do that, that would be fine too.
I just, it's a, you know, it's got to be fixed. That's the bottom line. And it's stupid to pay dump fees when we know it's broke, continue to pay dump fees when we know it's broke. And I don't think it's fair for Elaine to have to sit there and worry about it every time we have a crowd out there if it's going to overflow or not.
Well,
so I've talked to Hugh. Hugh said, you know, that's just one of those things you have to pay for.
Right, and I think
the money's there.
I think you gave Elaine the authorization to go ahead and do those type of expenditures.
So,
the other thing was, there seems to be a lot more problems this year than there has been in the past, so I wonder if there is some sludge in there. The other alternative would be just say, well, why don't we just wait, dig the thing up, maybe get the plumbing company and thoroughly pump not just the one manhole access port, but there's another one, and dig that one out too. and find out if there is some sludge built up in there.
I've been told that it's not adequate. For-
It's not. It
Okay,
was
well,
designed
then
for
why-
one bathroom.
Then we need to add, we need
One
to add to
restroom
it.
facility.
Right. So,
Yeah, without having a, full quorum here, Nick had to leave. I got to be careful what we talk about, but I do think it would be behoove of us to have Elaine just gather some information for us, including porta potties. Just to get with, some of the bigger outfits and say, hey, what's a couple of options to get through this season, to give us a little breathing room, not to spend a bunch of money. That's, I think, something we have to look at, and we do that for special events all the time. So,
Well, having to weigh the usage, like, do we shut down a couple bathrooms after a certain, amount of uses? It would be hard to get people moved to porta potties unless we just shut down certain bathrooms. We've also been talking about low flow or low water usage, toilets and sinks, maybe replacing some of these older units that we have. We actually had a weekend where we had a diesel train. We had not as many passengers, and we watched that tank just fill, and the alarm went off. And so when I called to have it pumped, I was there, and it was water. So there's either got to be sludge, or we're using excessive amounts of water. It's also a small tank, we found out. So, again, Stan has been working with me very closely on this, and we've checked various avenues. So we do need to have it looked at, to go ahead and have it open up that secondary manhole to see if there are any issues with it, and also to determine what is our water usage and where this problem is coming from. But we had a leaking toilet one night. I left there at 9, returned at 5:30 the next day, and the alarm was going off, and I had just had it pumped. So there's an issue. And we're spending $350 to $500 every time they have to come out and pump the tank.
no, I fully understand that, Elaine, but I just don't
Yeah.
think we gathered all of our information, potential options, and then come back to the board.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I just wanted to share with you how extreme the issue is.
Yeah.
Elaine, I'd suggest, why don't we get to call your plumber fella or have Ron Kip, but they're buried. Everybody's buried in the construction industry. And expose that other manhole, clean out both sides, and let's take a look inside there and find out if there is. Rough calculation, 2,500 gallon tank, that's 1,562 toilet flushes at 1.6 gallons. So I don't know if you have that many toilet flushes on a weekend. Okay?
Get out there with your camera.
Yeah. So and hopefully all the leaks are taken care of. Obviously, if one toilet's running, you got 100 or 500 flushes in a half a day if one toilet's running. So, assuming we do go forward with sizing the new tank, I sent you an email today. Maybe this is a question for Candy. Gary asked for some ridership information just for 2017 for the whole year to develop a baseline of how many people actually are there, and then there's formulas you can say, okay, this many people you can use toilets. And also, if you've got pumping information from last year, that would help to, this is what we need to have so we don't have to excessively pump, and that NDEP will approve those calcs for. But again, we don't have to start on this, and whatever your direction is, so.
well, I want to continue moving this. I've talked to Nick. I didn't talk to Jack. I've talked to Joel. I don't know how you can avoid it. And we're going to get the bids. We've already got one. We'll get one from, I went to Public Works and said, who do you use? Who do you recommend? And they gave me 2 names. I'll get another one, and we'll get bids. But I think we got to continue with the preliminary and continue with these permits. So when we do get to that point, we can make a decision.
Again, if you want to proceed with, part of the thing is developing a site plan. Okay, well then everybody can say, okay, included with this site plan is this scope of work. Give me your proposal, give me your proposal,
Right.
give me your proposal, rather than just going to the contractor and saying, hey, what do you think?
Right.
And because then you'd get an apple, an orange, and a pear. This way you'd have prices for apples, which is a standard way even on an informal proposal of doing it, so. Go ahead, Denny, I'm sorry.
No, I just think that, we need to get some information before we can do anything and bring it back to the board. I'm not in favor of spending $70,000 on a toilet right now. I'm just not. I think we need to see if there's a plumbing issue. It sounds like an awful lot of flushes. There could be a leak there that could be filling it up. And then we get a plumber to evaluate that, or even temporarily a quick space trailer for these giant events. They can come and service it on these big weekends for these big golf tournaments and stuff. Quick space may give us a decent price.
Are they lit? I mean, because I'm
They're-
thinking at Polar at night.
They're beautiful. They're
So they
nice
have-
restrooms. They're
okay.
lit. They're clean. I mean, yeah, they're very nice. They come on a trailer. They leave them. They service them every week. So
Well,
just as an option, I'm just saying
Yeah.
temporarily. Okay, I understand that's not we don't want to keep flushing this thing. We don't want to, but we need to get some information. We just can't. I mean, that's a big item that we got to think about what we want to. We got a lot of things we need to pay for. So
Exactly. And so what I'm hearing is, first, let's get a plumber out there. Let's look at the tank. Let's see what the problem is. We can always pump weekly in order to maintain this smaller tank. But once we know what the problem is, and if we do have to shut things down and get a temporary trailer or something like that, it just seems that it seems excessive talking to people that have been at the facility or at the location year after year, and what problems that we've experienced. We just want to get it fixed before Polar Express. So I can have it pumped weekly until we can get it fixed. But a plumber, it sounds like, will be able to answer our questions, and we can see what's going on, whether it's our 4 toilets or our tank that has an issue, and then bring it to the board. Unless
Sounds
it's an
good.
extreme emergency, and we might be calling another meeting to get the approval.
right.
Sound
Well,
good?
I've talked to Public Works, I've talked to Ken, I've talked to 2 contractors, and they all say that tank is not adequate for our usage. It should have been supplemented when they opened up the other part.
Okay, Ken, you want to move on?
Yeah, real quick, again, 3 months worth of stuff. Maintenance way update, Gabe is doing regular track inspections and miscellaneous maintenance. Obvious, and then we back and forth with Tom. Tom's pointed out a couple of little areas where the train police were mentioned. We take care of some items, but there's nothing major going on there. We did have that vehicle that got up on the tracks. I think I was in Utah at the time, in Eureka, and Gabe is keeping track of his costs for that separately, because he had to go down there and, number one, doing a special inspection, do some handwork, and then he's almost ready, got his ballast regulator running. It's going to have to do some ballast regulating. Now, I'm not sure if that's something we can seek reimbursement on, but I asked Gabe to make sure that all those costs are kept separately. Ongoing problem, at least we didn't have the burning truck this year, so, yet, knock on wood. Back last year, the board authorized Gabe and also utilized some of Tom's equipment, particularly Tom's excavator, high rail excavator, to do some initial work on the cleaning the shoulders from the 2017 track damage. That work is basically all complete, with the exception of the fact that part of that was bringing the ballast regulator in, which has been done, and going up and dressing those areas. So Gabe will be doing that probably within the next 2 weeks, and that'll complete that $30,000 authorization that the board said to go forward. Now remember, the $30,000 was to offset the $250,000 project that was bid and not awarded. So there's a little small apple and a big cantaloupe. I guess we're comparing the two things together. So there's going to have to be some ongoing work. I think at the time, we talked about doing some additional work coming up, which is in my upcoming work items. This was really a question for Nick. I just sent an email to you, Elaine, and I'm not sure if Nick still has the same carson.org email address or not. If not, maybe you could forward that to him. Basically, Division of Emergency Management requires quarterly reports on all FEMA projects. We did the initial ones. Those projects are complete. I'm not sure if we need to file additional reports with those folks or not. and I'm not quite sure what the status is on the reimbursements. We went back and forth on the supplemental reimbursement we asked for, and they said we missed the deadline because the board didn't, you needed to do it by within a such and such a date of the board acting. And I said, we're not under Carson, we're not under Lyon, we're not under Story, we're an independent state agency. Our date was held, we did a special meeting to authorize this declared emergency, and supposedly now they're looking at that. That's not a lot. That's half of the 25% match that we get back from the state. We're only talking about $40,000 anyway, total expenditure, so, but every $5,000 helps. But I've been deliberately not spending any time on this project because I want the reimbursement, not my time to eat through it. And the time I have spent on it in the last 3 months has all been pro bono. But I'm not sure that, if Nick's the guy to go to on that, to talk to a Division of Emergency Management, find out what's going on. Do we need to do the quarterlies? Their spreadsheets, they're not difficult, and what the status of our reimbursements are.
Okay, we addressed that at our last board meeting, and we approved a letter to the Department of Emergency Management to allow them to speak with me. I did send them a letter. I have not heard back, so I'll circle back with Sue's Coyote and
No surprise.
and see if they'll speak with me. If not, I'm just going to grab a board member, and it could possibly be Nick again, and say, please let him go through the review. What they have is they have a packet that needs to be reviewed, and then they can give us the reimbursement.
Well, and again, it's, what do you need? Tell us what you need, but I don't want to spend $100,000 to get $40,000 reimbursement. It's a small project, so, yeah. Do you expect the same level of paperwork from this organization that you are going to get from NDOT, who's doing multi-million dollars worth of work? That's the problem I'm having. And then the quarterly reports, they're going to be identical to the previous ones because the projects that we are asking for reimbursements for are complete. The only thing we'd be changing on is the date. But do we need to do that? Otherwise, they're going to say, nope, sorry. I don't know. Anyway, you got an email. Carson City interlocal agreement for the bridge. We had some back and forth on that. One of the supervisors over there was questioning the need to have that interlocal agreement, but Carson City bridge or lighting folks have just done us a wonderful job, and it's much more cost effective to have them go out and provide the traffic control and change the lights when we need at the bridge than if we were to hire a contractor. But I think we've got that on track at this point.
Denny just signed the extended.
I'm sorry?
Denny, the chairman just signed the extended agreement with
Perfect.
the city.
Yeah, and they've been great. Carson City's been great, not just on that, but everything time else. They're always able to help us out with fixing potholes and grading and whatnot. So Carson City Public Works entirely has been wonderful. We need to make sure we get them all tickets again on Polar. Okay, this next item, 2018 work. None of this stuff is new. It's all been discussed before. Some of it's already programmed. But I put those bullet items just to bring the board back to speed as to what we're looking at. That's the reason I asked you for the budget, Elaine. I was trying to identify what a line item maintenance away budget was item, but I don't see that number. I see, for example, you have $45,000 for my services, and I'm not going to be half of that. Probably it's not going to be over $20,000. But I don't know if some of these other items are included. Gabe's initial contract, looking at this budget, says it's like $47,000, but that doesn't include the previously authorized work to do the pre-emergent, which is another $12,000. So I'm sort of in the dark as, do we shut the railroad down due to lack of maintenance, or do we have some money to work with?
No,
Anyway,
Ken, just come to me and we'll go through all the
we need to sit down and work through this. Anyway, Gabe, we got some regular maintenance that goes along just with working on the track, and sometimes he uses a 2-man crew, 3-man crew, 4-man crew, depending on what it is. And there's probably about $10,000 worth of work, I'm guessing, for the rest of the year in that. Pre-emergent program, which we have been doing for 6-7 years now, that's roughly a $12,000 cost, mostly material. One of the items we talked about with the ditch cleaning last year was to follow up with another ditch cleaning iteration, because that's something that's going to have to be going on. And Gabe, and again, he's going to be using Tom's equipment, which is because he's got that wonderful piece of equipment to help clean ditches. I put down 25,000. We're going to be able to do that, or are we just going to, if we're not, we're going to be a little bit of a problem. There's some light spots where we need some additional ballast. I'm guessing we need 3-4 cars of ballast, which involves working with Tom to get a work train, and Gabe provides labor, and Tom usually gets the ballast car filled up for us. And then we compensate Tom for that effort and then go dump the ballast. And the next step is actually getting out there, and now that we have a ballast regulator, and spreading that in certain locations. We're light. So ballasting is something you do on a regular basis on a railroad. It just, the rocks go away, ATV's right on the shoulders. We deferred last year. We've been doing a joint oiling program. And what that amounts to, I asked Gabe to do it basically to loosen every joint on the railroad through a 4-year program, about a quarter of the track every year. And what we actually do is provide some lubricant to keep those joints working, and then retorque the bolts on those joints. I may be getting a little more technical, but the reason for that is because of the extreme curvature we have. What we don't want to do is have joints that freeze up, and then you're subject to, particularly if there's light ballast, to sun kinks. This is what it amounts to, or thermal problems. And again, this is an old procedure that the big railroads don't use anymore because they're all CWR, continuous welded rail. But that's what we've been doing. We deferred it last year because of other expenditures, but I'd like to get him back on that. And again, it's about a 4-year process. He does about 4 miles a year is what it amounts to, and then starts doing it again. We do have some bridge repairs that are required on the US 50 bridge, mostly cosmetic. There's a couple of bolts and whatnot and some little bit of rust. And again, that's some items that have been included on NDOT's exception list. They inspect the bridge every 2 years. We as a railroad are required, due to a specific act of Congress, to inspect our bridge once a year. And the 2 inspections we try to work with them, but we can't substitute their inspection for ours. So, in other words, we haven't had an inspector program. We had to build a bridge inspection program manual for our railroad, just the same way for our one bridge. The same way the Union Pacific had to do one for, what do they have, 20,000 bridges. So we had to do the same thing. There was no exemption made for a smaller tourist railroad or even a short line railroad. Tom doesn't have any bridges, so he doesn't have to do it. And I don't know if we're gonna have to do lighting maintenance. Typically we do. So I put that down there too. I just wanted the board to be aware of these items that are coming up, and if we can't do them, we can't do them. But there's nothing unusual here, nothing that I didn't include in that list when I gave you way back when we were working on the budget back then. Before I finish this item, I did prepare a maintenance away work tracking Excel spreadsheet, which I want Gabe to fill out so we have a little bit of work. Okay, this location, I mean, it's not for inspections or when he lubes a switch, but if he's got a 2-man crew out there, what did they do? Was there any equipment? And I just took it upon myself to do that so we could track that work specifically. And last on my list here, this does not include any repair work, maintenance at the depot site, which obviously there needs to be some work done there. So that's my list on the track maintenance, track-related maintenance work that I wanted the board to be aware of. Questions on that before I jump down to the last couple items?
When you say obviously there's some work to be done at the depot, what are you referring to?
Well, I think if you look at the loading platform, I think it needs to be repainted. Some of the paint's peeling off. There's some stumbling hazards with the asphalt concrete near the depot that probably need to be taken care of. There's just a lot of little items. There's nothing significant, but I think Elaine's probably got some items there too. That there needs to be a little bit of maintenance there. You know, that loading platform was put in 2009, and there's been absolutely zero maintenance done on it since that was installed. So, not a big item, but maybe a little paint, because it looks shoddy, quite frankly. And I've had a couple people mention that. And so we want it to look like a historic railroad that's about ready to fold up, right? Anything else or questions? Tom or Steve, do you have any comments on this crap pardon me, the good stuff I just talked about? Robert Matthews, who is the owner of TWA, which is not the airline, it's Tahoe Western Asphalt. They are the ones that he runs the asphalt plant on Benny Maddox's property right at the county line just above Pick and Pull. He's donated a lot of work to this project. Q&D initially put that portion of that embankment going down to the Eastgate siding, which is what this picture's for, the Eastgate expansion. And Robert's come in and put some more material down there and spread it. We also had some bad material dumped in there. I would have liked to find out who put that material there so I could go have a little chat with them, but Robert cleaned it up, brought a screed in, and got rid of the garbage and redistributed that material down there. He's done all that work for free. He's also going to do this signal bridge move. Retrack project, one of the big signal towers over the UP main line, formerly SP main line, downtown Reno, was abandoned, and we ended up with a thing that was donated to us. That's still sitting over at the Draco Way, the marijuana facility yards. They've been asking me to get rid of it for months and months and months. I've been loath to do it until I could get it done for free. So Robert's going to take care of that, but he's got to get a truck and a crane, and he's going to donate that. He's going to obviously write it off on taxes, but that's why that hasn't happened yet. There's also a piece of one of the culverts that was stashed over there so it wouldn't disappear. That was original 1869 culvert that came up from American Flats. We're going to move those over to someplace on this Eastgate expansion depot site. Elaine asked me the other day, and I think it's a great idea, as part of this embankment we're building for the future track down to Eastgate, the Eastgate expansion, why can't we use that as a secondary access road for Polar Express? And I also ran that by Robert today, and I said, what do you think? In other words, can you help us out, bring some more material in? And he even said that they may be able to scrounge up some aggregate base that does not meet spec, so we could put a little down over the top of that to provide an access for secondary access. So we're going to be working on that. That was a great idea. Why not use it? It's got about 4 foot of fill that has to go in to accommodate trains or train track, but not for passenger vehicles or don't need to use that. So that's what we're looking at. And again, kudos to Robert. I mean, he's been busy, and sometimes I got to bug him, but I called him and he said, yeah, I'm going to get the signal bridge. I promise I'll get next week. So hopefully we'll take care of that. The last thing I've got is I am going to go on a high rail inspection. I wanted to take Nick, and Stan was aware. We're going tomorrow at 9 o'clock to see whoever wanted to come on the board, but that looks like it's going to be myself and Gabe. Unless Tom wants to come along, that's fine too. And it's basically, I haven't been up for a while. I want to take a look at things and develop some items for the next round of the ditch cleaning contract to make sure we have those prioritized, assuming the board moves forward with that. That's about all I've got. Again, this is a picture of the Eastgate expansion project. I just wanted everybody to be aware of that. We did get 21 acres and a transportation right-of-way grant from the BLM to support that project. And as long as we're moving forward on it, they won't cancel it. We're moving forward on it.
What's the time frame?
There is no time frame. We need to keep moving forward on it. To get it completed, I don't know if you've got a couple $1 million, we can get it completed fast. But everything the only cost that's been on this is a little bit of engineering and some surveying. All the physical construction cost, putting in almost $100,000 worth of dirt. If you bid it, it was done for free.
Okay, thanks, Ken. Appreciate it. And we'll go on to agenda letter L, discussion only the next meeting date. Elaine, looks like we're standard set for last Thursday of each month, the 30th of August 2018 at 1 p.m. here. Okay. And then we'll go on to letter M on the agenda, commissioner comments. Just you and me, Stan.
Go ahead.
The only thing I have, and Elaine, this is a question I just thought of when we were talking about interlocal agreements, did we ever get, and it would be for Joel too, a interlocal agreement in place with the Carson City CVB in regards to the annual contribution that they were going to give us, like we did with Story County?
No, it was just a vote and an approval at a board meeting, but nothing formal in writing. I can follow up with that, though.
Yeah, I think we probably ought to have something, because things are changing, obviously, with the boards, and this, I know CVB, is, they got new people. So I think you have to have that in place would be probably a good thing for us.
Okay, I'll follow up with Joel,
Okay.
and we'll make it
Yep.
happen.
Great. Stan, anything?
Yeah, I've kind of want to do some upgrading around the depot and that area. And I've worked with Elaine a little bit to identify areas that have been neglected, for lack of a better word, or deferred maintenance, or whatever the right word is. And we're going to make some improvements. We gave Elaine the authority the last time to spend up to, I think, $7,500 for improvements, single item. And we're looking at replacing the front doors at the ticket office. There's no security there for them. I'm going to look into what the cost, just the cost of enclosing the passenger, putting doors on that, what is that, east side of the passenger holding. I have no idea if that's a standard size double garage door or if it's odd size, but I'm going to look into that. Tom had encouraged Elaine to look at putting a concrete skirting around the ticket office, and I'm not quite sure what that's for, but he thought it was something that should be done. Pardon?
It's to enclose the bottom of the ticket office, which was never completed.
Oh, okay.
Keep out the rodents because they are doing damage.
Okay. We're looking at a sound system for the passenger holding area. And we met with Public Works, and what's the status on the sign? We've got a sign coming up now that we worked at Carson. That area is now referred to as Carson Recreation Area because they got the gun range, the disc course, the model airplane, and ours. So Public Works, I think, in Parks is going to put a sign up for us, right?
Right, and it's actually the East Gate, the East Gate recreational
Yeah,
area.
East Gate,
Yeah, and it's going to be one of those signs that are outside of the, recreational areas like Mount Rose and some of the others where you have the big sign that says what it is, and then you have those little picture signs of what's there, and one of those will be a steam train. But they're nice, they're large, and there's going to be two. So people won't miss Flint Road.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was a great idea, and I think we collected that from Candy.
The existing sign is limited by what NDOT would let us put up.
Right,
Originally
right.
had a much bigger sign, and then I think actually, the director of the NDOT called me and said, Ken, take that sign down, it's too big. So we had to put a smaller, even though she was much in favor of the project.
So that's all I have. Anything else?
No, I just want to thank you for jumping in and helping keep these at the top of, our focus, because we do want to see some of these things done this season so that we do not defer maintenance to next year, because we will have some problems. And it was a great idea that Tom had to skirt that building, because when you're there by yourself, you can hear who's living underneath. And we should probably enclose it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also we got a couple of security cameras that we'll be installing.
Yeah, and Elaine, with that, just real quick, we budgeted a lot of that stuff. There is capital outlay, there are maintenance fund, there is a tech fund, so there's money there, and that's for you to allocate it how you see fit. So, and if it's a big ticket item, just probably let us know, but go get them. Yeah. Anything else, anybody? All right, meeting adjourned.
Do we want to